What if the gods didn't create mankind out of love, but out of desperation? If that idea already stirs something in you, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment with the number 7 to show you're one of the few brave enough to follow the truth to its roots. The echoes of rebellion still lingered in the minds of Eridu. The Igigi, once celestial overseers, had laid down their tools and walked into legend, their silent exodus a wound in the fabric of divine authority. And in that rupture, a name was born, not shouted, but etched into clay with the weight of cosmic defiance: Lulu. Enki's hand did not tremble as he wrote it, for he knew it was not a command, it was a beginning, a seed planted in the soil of suffering, a whisper to the earth itself. This was not evolution, this was consequence. Divine hierarchy had failed, and where order crumbled, necessity rose. Lulu was not an invention. Lulu was a reaction to pain, to pressure, to a truth too great to ignore. The gods themselves could not carry the burden they had created. And so Enki looked not to the stars, but to the blood of gods and the clay of earth. From that union something new would rise, not divine, not beast, but aware, a being forged from rebellion itself. This is not just mythology, this is memory. And if you're still with us, the journey is just beginning. The chamber quivered on the edge of revelation, its silence a tapestry woven with threads of dread and possibility. Enki stood resolute, his presence a quiet storm amid the council's unrest, as the faint glow of the Emi tablet pulsed like a heartbeat from the abyss. Beyond the arched windows of the sanctum, the stars hung heavy, their light filtering through the void, as if straining to bear witness to a moment that would ripple across the fabric of existence. The air thrummed with an ancient resonance, a frequency older than the Anunnaki themselves, stirring the dust of Eridu and the depths of the Abzu into a chorus of anticipation. This was no mere debate among gods. It was a fracture in the eternal, a crossroads where the divine trembled before the audacity of its own design. Enlil's fury simmered, his silhouette a monolith of tradition against the shimmering uncertainty. His voice, jagged with indignation, cut through the chamber once more. You speak of memory as though it were a gift, Enki, but what you propose is a Pandora's breach, a spark in the clay that could blaze beyond our grasp. To awaken such a being is to invite chaos into the order we have bled to uphold. His eyes, sharp as the edge of a comet, swept the assembly, seeking allies among the shifting faces of the Anunnaki. Yet beneath his wrath lay a tremor of doubt, a shadow cast by the unspoken. What if the order he defended was itself a brittle illusion, crumbling under the weight of its own rigidity? Enki's response was a whisper that carried the force of a tidal surge. Chaos, brother, is not the enemy of order. It is its cradle. The Igigi broke not because they defied us, but because we failed them. We built a cosmos on their shoulders and called it divine, yet when they faltered, we turned away. This new being, this fusion of clay and blood, is not a rebellion against our nature, but its fulfillment. We are creators, Enlil. To create is to risk, to reach into the unknown and draw forth what has never been. His gaze drifted to the glowing tablet, its light a silent hymn to possibilities yet unborn. And in that moment, the chamber seemed to hold its breath, caught between the pull of tradition and the lure of the infinite. Ninhursag's presence, serene yet unyielding, anchored the tension like a star fixed in a turbulent sky. Her voice, when it rose again, was a thread of clarity amid the storm. The earth is not silent, nor is it passive. It remembers the weight of our steps, the scars of our dominion. What Enki proposes is not a violation, but a reckoning, a chance to weave our essence into the tapestry of this world, not as masters, but as kin. If we deny this, we deny the very life we claim to govern. Her words hung in the air, resonant with a wisdom that seemed to predate the council itself, as though she spoke from a vantage point beyond time, where the threads of fate converged in patterns too vast to fathom. The Anunnaki stirred, their unease a palpable current. Some cast furtive glances at the Emi tablet, its luminescence now a steady glow, as if the artifact itself were an arbiter in this cosmic tribunal. Others fixed their eyes on Enki, searching for cracks in his resolve, while a few turned inward, wrestling with the implications of a creation that might one day question its creators. The chamber, once a bastion of unassailable authority, now felt like a crucible, its walls echoing with the clash of divine will and the murmur of something deeper. an awakening that transcended their dominion. Enki stepped closer to the tablet, his fingers hovering above its surface, not touching yet attuned to its hum. "The clay whispers," he said, his voice low and reverent. "It is not empty matter, it is potential, etched with the echoes of a will older than ours. The Abzu churns with secrets we have only begun to hear. This being we forge will not merely serve, it will reflect. It will carry the memory of our desperation, our courage, and perhaps our flaws. To fear that is to fear ourselves." His words were a quiet thunder rolling through the assembly, stirring the dust and the stars alike into a dance of uncertainty. Enlil's hands clenched, his voice rising like a gale. "And when this reflection turns against us, when it demands more than we can give, you gamble with the pillars of Nibiru itself." But even as he spoke, the Emmy tablet flared brighter, its light spilling across the chamber, illuminating the faces of the council in stark relief. A gallery of gods caught in the throes of their own mortality. Ninhursag rose, her silhouette framed by the starlight streaming through the vaulted dome. "Then let it demand," she said, her tone a blade of serenity. "Let it rise and challenge us. For if we are truly divine, we will meet that challenge. Not with chains, but with the strength of what we have dared to create." Her gaze locked with Enki's, a silent pact forged in the crucible of this moment, and the tablet's glow seemed to pulse in rhythm with their shared resolve. Beyond the sanctum, the earth stirred, its depths trembling with a resonance that matched the tablet's song. The Abzu, vast and uncharted, whispered back, a call from the primordial to the celestial, a bridge between what was and what might be. The council remained divided, their voices hushed, their fates teetering on the edge of a choice that would echo through the ages. The stars above burned on, indifferent yet complicit, as the gods stood poised to reshape the cosmos, or be reshaped by it. And in that fragile silence, the clay waited, alive with the promise of a consciousness yet to be born, its destiny entwined with the will of those who dared to dream beyond the divine. The chamber dimmed, though no one had extinguished the lights. It was as if the air itself bent in reverence to what Ninhursag was about to reveal. She stepped forward, robes rustling like whispers from another age, and placed her hand, gently, purposefully, upon the surface of the dormant Emmy tablet. At first, nothing happened. Then, without sound, without command, the tablet stirred to life. A pulse of light, not golden but a deep, iridescent blue, radiated outward. The glyphs on its surface rearranged themselves, not in lines or formulas, but in spirals, breathing patterns that seemed to mimic the coils of galaxies, or the helix of life. Ninhursag did not speak at first. She closed her eyes as if listening to something beyond the reach of words. And then, softly, she began. "There is a memory older than our mission, older than Nibiru's need, a codex, inscribed not on stone, but within the biological resonance of form. It spoke of directed biological capacity, the ability to encode sentience not through engineering alone, but through harmony. Only Enki and I remember it, because we were the only ones entrusted with it." Gasps rippled through the chamber. "What we call life," she continued, "is not merely replication. It is recognition. Matter, given the right pattern, knows how to awaken. The Emmy tablets are not tools, they are reminders, gateways, and they do not respond to command. They respond to purpose, true purpose." As she spoke, the spiral patterns intensified. Floating holograms emerged above the tablet, complex, elegant structures built from oscillating waveforms and light particles, slowly folding into the unmistakable structure of DNA. But not Anunnaki DNA. Something new. Something between. "Do you see?" she said, her voice a mix of wonder and sorrow. "This is not a species to dominate. This is a consciousness to midwife. It will not be Anunnaki, nor beast. It will remember us, but it will not be us. That is its strength." Enlil turned away, disturbed. But others leaned in, caught in the gravity of her revelation. Enki stood beside her, silent, watching as the patterns spun and danced in the air. Language without words, intent without speech. A forgotten codex, not written in ink or clay, but in resonance. Waiting for the right hands, the right hearts to be activated. This was no act of rebellion. It was a continuation of something once halted. A design not to control, but to release. And in that moment, the gods stood not above creation, but within it. There are moments in time when the cosmos holds its breath, when silence becomes the only witness to acts too profound for history to contain. One such moment came when a young god, unknowing of his destiny, was chosen. His name, veiled in the Babylonian texts, was Kingu, a divine being whose fate was sealed not by guilt but by necessity. The council did not vote. The decision was not debated. It simply manifested. And though the chamber remained cold and procedural, the undercurrent was unmistakable. This was not sacrifice, it was substitution, a life for a creation. Ninhursag stepped forward, eyes dimmed with reverence rather than cruelty. She did not wield a blade. No incision was made. Instead, her hands hovered above Kingu's still chest, and from her voice emerged a low harmonic tone, ancient, precise. A resonant frequency, not heard but felt, began to build in the air. It wrapped itself around Kingu like a coil of memory, unlocking blood not by force but by consent, somehow coaxed from the very marrow of his being. It shimmered, gold-tinged and luminous, as if laced with the stardust of the gods. Enki, silent and steady, knelt at the banks of Abzu. He collected clay soaked in primeval memory, infused with the earth's first breath. Into it he poured water, sacred, deep, alive. And then with hands that no longer felt like his own, he added the blood. The air shifted, the winds paused, and a pulse moved through the chamber, subtle but undeniable. A tremor not from the ground but from reality itself, acknowledging a boundary being crossed. The form was molded, a vessel, humanoid but empty, a shell awaiting essence. It bore no name, no identity, only possibility. Yet something within it stirred, and Ninhursag knew what to do. She stepped forward, her voice carrying a tonal sequence known only to the few who still remembered the first design. It was not a language in the traditional sense. It was a frequency, a language of awakening, passed down not in text but through harmonic lineage, stored in the ME, dormant until this very moment. Her chant began as a hum, then unfolded into notes that seemed to rearrange the atoms in the chamber. The clay figure trembled, not violently but as if stirred by a dream long denied. A faint glow ignited from its forehead, not bright, not blinding, just enough to signify presence. Its eyelids fluttered, it inhaled, and for the first time something born of earth, blood and song, Lulu, opened its eyes. He looked at Enki. There was no fear, no worship, just awareness, and something deeper still, recognition. Not of Enki as master, but as midwife. Lulu blinked, as if adjusting to the strange corridor between flesh and divinity. Enki exhaled. Ninhursag wept, not from sadness, but from the unbearable beauty of witnessing something impossible come to pass. But the divine does not welcome change with open arms. The council's silence shattered. Enlil rose, fury in his voice. This creature bears the seed of rebellion. His words echoed like thunder made of judgment. You forged a vessel that walks the line between slave and god, and you dare call it a solution? Others murmured, some in fear, some in awe. Anu, the High Sovereign, did not condemn, but he did not affirm. His voice was still, but his decree final. This species shall not live forever. Immortality was the price, not for sin, but for survival. Enki nodded in acceptance, but behind his calm was something else, a private conviction. He embedded within Lulu a dormant strand, a latent harmonic in the DNA that could, when the time was right, awaken higher potential. Not for power, not for defiance, but for evolution. Thus Lulu was born, not to serve blindly, not to worship, but to remember, to carry the echo of rebellion, the humility of labor, and the spark of awakening. The gods looked on, divided. Some saw danger, others saw hope. The heavens did not thunder in joy, nor did they split in rage. They watched, as they always did, unblinking, unknowable. In that stillness, something cosmic had shifted. Lulu, the first of his kind, stood not as a servant, but as a mirror. A reflection of what the gods refused to see in themselves, the fragility of control, the illusion of permanence, and the inevitability of change. He would not rise to power nor fall into worship. He would walk the long, winding spiral of becoming, of seeking, questioning, and perhaps one day, remembering why he was made at all. The first rays of morning light filtered through the canopies of Eridu's outer garden, casting long shadows that danced across the freshly shaped clay. Lulu stood at the edge of the field, his hands immersed in soil, yet his attention far beyond it. Unlike the Igigi, who once moved with rigid repetition through the minds and mechanisms, Lulu approached each task as if seeing it anew, curious, observant, imbued with wonder. He did not toil, he explored. When asked to shape stones, he studied their edges. When asked to tend channels of irrigation, he first traced the water's flow with his fingers, whispering sounds not taught to him, but remembered, patterns of vibration, resonance, breath. His labor did not mimic, it created. A small cadre of Anunnaki, acting without Enlil's sanction, watched from the periphery, their expressions equal parts awe and unease. They were scholars, engineers, artists, those among the gods who had long felt the constraints of the divine hierarchy, but never dared question it. And now, in this being forged from blood and clay, they saw something unsettlingly familiar. Lulu did not speak the celestial tongue, yet responded to tones and frequencies. He could repeat a gesture after seeing it only once. More than that, he could refine it. When the wind blew across the stone plates in a certain way, he paused and listened, not with ears, but with presence, and his movements adjusted as if syncing with the very rhythm of the earth. "What is this?" one whispered to another. "It learns without command." "He remembers," said another. Enki stood apart from them, his gaze not fixed on Lulu, but on the subtle oscillations forming in the ground. Beneath Lulu's steps, a faint hum pulsed, low, steady, like the earth exhaling in recognition. He had seen the Igigi break beneath the repetition. But Lulu? He moved like one rediscovering a song that had once been forgotten. A living vessel, yes, but not empty. Not anymore. "This is not labor," Enki murmured to Ninhursag, who had joined him silently, her eyes reflecting a quiet depth. "This is awakening." Ninhursag said nothing, but her hand reached into the satchel she wore across her chest. From it, she pulled a small ME shard, dormant, inert for millennia. As she drew closer to Lulu, it began to glow softly, not in full activation, but in resonance. It responded not to command, but to presence. She looked at Enki, eyes wide with realization. "He's not just a vessel for work," she said. "He's a mirror. He reflects us, and something more." Lulu, unaware of their gaze, picked up a small flat stone. He traced a spiral onto its surface using only his fingernail, slow, deliberate. The pattern was crude, yet unmistakable. It mirrored the symbol Enki had first etched into clay when the Abzu whispered the truth. That spiral, symbol of life, of flow, of evolution. Lulu had not been taught it. He had remembered it. A quiet hum filled the air, not from tools or devices, but from the surrounding flora, as if the living systems of Earth recognized their own in him. The trees bent subtly toward his direction. The water rippled with anticipation. The vibration was not divine, it was harmonic. The Earth was not worshipping Lulu, it was listening to him. Enki turned away from the watchers. "He's accelerating. This species won't take eons to evolve like the others. They're already attuned to the ME structure, even if they don't comprehend it." "Is that dangerous?" asked one of the younger Anunnaki, her voice hushed. Enki paused. "Only if we keep lying to ourselves about who holds the knowledge." Because Lulu, in his innocence, did not obey, he aligned. His actions were not responses to commands, but to underlying patterns. Those same patterns embedded in stone, in water, in blood. He was not an anomaly. He was a catalyst, a sentient equation set loose in a world that still believed in divine boundaries. The Anunnaki began to realize, Lulu was not designed to endure labor. He was designed to reveal truth. Every step he took across the soil, every spiral he traced, every moment of stillness as he listened to the wind. These were acts of memory rising to the surface. And somewhere, beneath it all, the earth responded in kind. The hum was no longer subtle. It had become a song. The ME tablet quivered, its crystalline lattice alive with a resonance that reached beyond the confines of the chamber, threading through the marrow of Eridu's ancient stones. This was no mechanical tremor, but a harmonic sigh, a stirring of something primal that had slumbered since the first dawn of Anunnaki dominion. The tablets, eternal sentinels of cosmic law, had long borne the silent weight of creation's blueprints, codes that wove the stars and sculpted the pulse of life itself. Yet now, one awoke, not to the probing of divine hands, but to the gravity of a moment unfolding in the shadowed heart of the council. Its glow shifted, a living flame dancing within its depths, casting a crystalline chime that pierced the stillness, a sound not heard since the earth first drank the light of Nibiru. As Enki and Ninhursag drew near, the tablet's radiance surged, then coalesced into a vision. A child, barefoot amid the ruins of celestial ambition, standing where the Igigi's broken tools lay scattered like offerings to a forgotten god. The child's skin bore a spiral over the heart, a mark both alien and intimate. while eyes, neither servile nor defiant, gazed with a knowing that seemed to pierce the veil of time. The air bent subtly around this figure, as if the universe itself awaited a breath, a choice. Ninhursag's voice faltered, a rare fracture in her timeless poise. "He is not ours." Enki's reply was a murmur laced with reverence. "No, but he is all of us." The tablet pulsed once, a mournful, infinite note, and within the vibration lay a truth that shivered through the assembly. These beings would transcend their makers, not merely in flesh, but in spirit, bearing the fractures and yearnings the gods had buried beneath their thrones. "They will be the vessel," Enki whispered, "not for their frailty, but for their capacity to evolve." Silence descended, thick with the weight of realization, as the council grappled with a destiny they could neither grasp nor deny. Enlil had retreated into shadow, his rage eclipsed by doubt, while Anu's inscrutable gaze offered no solace. The spiral, once a mere glyph, now shimmered as a mirror to their own imperfection. Enki turned from the vision, his steps deliberate as he crossed the chamber's edge, where the first trace of Lulu had been carved into stone. With a hand steady as the tides, he inscribed a final spiral, not a closed decree, but an open arc flowing into a single word, Edin. Not a place, but a memory, the echo of unity before the divine drew lines of separation. Beneath it, his thumbprint glowed faintly, a seal of intent pressed into the clay of Earth itself. The ME dimmed, its message etched into the cosmos, and Enki's voice fell soft as a prayer. The creation was not the end, it was the first transgression. Outside, the winds of Eridu whispered through unfinished spires, carrying a question that hung like mist over the land. What becomes of a universe when the created recall what the creators have forsaken? The spiral pulsed in the stone, a quiet ember of a story yet unwritten, waiting to ignite.